Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest issue of the Mind Body Health Podcast. And as always, we're here to help you to take control of your life and give you the tools and strategies and hopefully the motivation and inspiration to take control of your life. Because, like I'm always stressing, you literally hold the pen writing the script of your life. And I'm always stressing the point of that because too often we give the control to other people, too often we give the control to excuses and blame and poor justification of our actions. But the reality is you are holding the pen. So what script are you writing? And here in the Mind Body Health podcast, we want to help you to write a better script. We want to inspire you to take personal responsibility because true freedom comes with taking personal responsibility for all areas of your life. It's something that people do struggle with because it's easier to not do that. But trust me, when you do take personal responsibility in full for everything, it's truly freedom. I'm delighted on this particular episode. It's a special one. We've got a very special guest. Geoff Seow, who is originally from Australia, but he lives between Singapore and Malaysia, and he's a life and business coach. He's an incredible journey. He's very passionate. Importantly, he's very authentic, because as you guys know, I like authenticity. I like people who align with my values and people who are out there genuinely looking to make a positive impact on other people's lives. And Geoff is truly doing that. And, in a short period of time, he has impacted hundreds of people all over the world in the content he shares, in his coaching, and just in the way he lives his life. Because again, as you know from previous guests, it's always people who are inspiring, even in just what they're doing. It's not about their words always, it's in what they're actually doing. It's like, watch what I'm doing, not always what I'm saying. So, Geoff, great to have you on.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Dave. It's a pleasure.
I'm looking forward to this now because again, look, you've a great story, you're doing great work, you're clearly passionate about what you do. You share a lot of great content practically every single day across social media, which is fantastic. Because like we touched on before we came on live, a lot of people aren't super consistent, and consistency is key both for you developing something special yourself, but importantly making the impact on other people. So it's just trying to keep that consistency, which isn't always easy, is it?
No, it's not. Sometimes there's a lot of obstacles or there's distractions, but I find that the most important thing is to just keep doing it and set that goal for yourself. This is my deliverable. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. And it's like we touched on before, there's plenty of days that you won't feel like it, plenty of days I don't feel like it. And a lot of time people don't see that. And in their own struggles, when they're having tough days where they don't feel like doing anything, they often feel like there's something wrong with them. But at the end of the day, there is no one who feels like doing stuff every day. If anything, you more feel like not doing stuff because even evolutionarily, we go for the easier option. Not doing stuff is the easier option. So, we all have that struggle every day. And sometimes people don't really see that.
Yeah, a lot of people think that it's always smooth sailing, but it's more likely for it to not be smooth sailing. I mean, there's an old quote that says the path to heaven is lined with thorns and the path to hell is lined with roses. And if
Yeah.
you look at life, like all of the pleasures, they take you away from the thing that you truly want if you're not careful to balance yourself out.
Yeah. I like that one, the heaven and hell one. I haven't heard that one before. That's good. So thanks for sharing that. So what we want to do always at the start with a guest, I think it's always good for, especially for people who haven't heard of you or haven't been exposed to much of your content, is to, get a good idea of who is Geoff, and what has brought Geoff to where he is right now, someone who's making a huge impact. Because again, it's well and good seeing where you are now, but like anyone who's successful and impactful, it's a journey. And that journey does not go in a straight line. That journey, like I always stress, is like a roller coaster, and there's ups, downs, and everything. There's lots of learnings, and it's like again, people holding the pen, writing their script. They need to realize that every experience has a learning in it, whether it be good or bad. And it's the same for us. We're in the same thing. We're evolving all the time, and we're just conscious of the power of that. And it's important for us to, I suppose, impress that upon people so they can have the same power. So if you can just go back wherever you need to go back to, that'll be the start of your journey to taking you from where you were to where you are now, and kind of share bits of that journey, the ups, downs, your lessons, and so on.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And like I love what you say about the pen because we can really choose. And I'll start from that pivotal point is like, so for me, I used to work as a clinical researcher and I hated my job. I really hated my job and I hated my life. Because I'd spent so long trying to build towards a particular career. I was in academics, clinical research. So I always used to tell myself I don't have a choice. And the thing is, at this point in time was even though like I was looking good in terms of like building my career, I was really suffering with drug addiction, alcoholism, going out every weekend, just doing everything I could to just melt my brain cells. but I'd been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for 8 years at that point. So
Mm,
between the ages of like 17 to 25, I was just trying to do that. And then in COVID time, uh, because things slowed down, I had the opportunity to really reflect on my life. And I realized that I was just justifying my actions by saying that I couldn't change anything. And a few things happened in my life at that point, which created a lot of trauma. So what happened was I decided to, one, get rid of drugs entirely, get rid of drinking, get rid of smoking, and clean my shit up. So what I
mm,
did was I started training. I went to the gym. I went to the gym every single day, and I pulled myself out. And after 6 months, and I didn't leave my job or anything at that time, but after 6 months, I was a bit enlightened. So what I realized is that to change your life, you have to really be clear on why you're doing it. My realization of why I was doing it is because I knew deep down that I had more to give in my life, but I
mm,
had succumbed to the thought of thinking that I couldn't change it because I could just do the bare minimum. I
mm,
followed the pathway of like school, university, all that kind of stuff. And I dabbled in things here and there, drugs and alcohol, but I let it control my life and leave me in a spot where I couldn't move. Now,
mm,
when in 2020 on Christmas Day, I decided to create an Instagram page called Your Daily Purpose. Now, this Instagram page was designed to take like philosophical quotes from the past from people like Lao Tzu, Marcus Aurelius, Alexander the Great, and I was taking them and turning into content. And if you guys are listening, you want to check it out, that page still exists. I don't post on it, but the page is still there, so you can see that
mm.
I'm telling you this for real.
But
You can
what's
scroll
it
all the way
again there,
down.
Geoff? What's the name of
Uh,
it?
Your Daily Purpose.
Perfect. Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's on Instagram. And like I posted every day for a long time. I amassed a following of 3,000 people in a matter of months. And people were reaching out to me and they were like, "Hey man, like this was a really good post. You've really opened my eyes, this kind of thing." And for this whole period of time, I'd always thought myself as a scumbag. Like I never really seen myself in a positive light. But by all these people coming to me and saying like, "Well, you're actually changing the way I think with the way you write," I started to realize that I could have some value to provide in this world.
Mm,
So in 2021, when COVID did hit, um, basically I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do in my life. No, COVID hit in 2020 actually. So this whole
mm,
time COVID was happening, but in 2021 I had a lot of time to think about how I wanted to change things. So I decided to quit my job. Literally just quit my job, and I booked a one-way ticket to Melbourne, and I found a place to live with this guy in Melbourne, just in a flat in South Bank in Melbourne. And I just moved. I quit my job and just moved there and decided I was going to try and open up a coaching business because I found online that as a life coach, you could help people overcome drug addiction, which is what I initially wanted to do.
and Geoff, just a quick one there. So you did
Mm.
all that cold turkey, like give up the drugs, cold turkey, alcohol, cold turkey, give up your job, cold turkey, moved, cold turkey. It was all just
Yeah.
like all or nothing type thing, burn the bridges.
Yeah, but I'm always like that. Like whenever I decide I'm going to do something, I just do it. Like I don't like waste time hesitating about it. I just do it
Yeah,
because like I feel like there's like so many like slow steps you could take, but I think if you really want to change your life, you just have to do it. You just say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it no matter what anyone says. This is my life.
yeah,
And I've always been like that.
yeah, and focus attention to it. Like one thing, because that's one thing that some people do struggle with. They might have an idea what they want in their life, but obviously there's things like procrastination, being unsure which path, things like that. But they're going slowly, 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 nearly tipping into the water. Just get a feel for it, as opposed to just jumping in 2 feet first. Like, what kind of advice would you give people? In terms of like that, they're kind of just tipping in versus just go for it. Any particular advice, even from your own experience?
I would say that it depends on what it is you're doing. I think for like most things, you should just jump right in. You shouldn't hesitate because even in the wild, if you hesitate, you're dead. Look at animals that hesitate. Even in the army, when they do training, they push you in the Olympic pool. Like there's no such thing as I put on my floaties. Like you just have
Yeah,
to go straight in. But then there are some things where you have to think before you act. That's for sure when it comes to matters of like interpersonal relationships and stuff like that. But if it comes to your own goals and your choices, you should just dive right in. If there's no
yeah,
consequence to anyone else but yourself, dive right in.
yeah, yeah. Definitely the best way to go. It's like feel the fear and do it anyway. Just go for it. Like cross that line. Because the ironic thing is that people have a fear of taking these steps, whatever area of their life it might be, and they're fearful of the risk, especially as society will tell them about the risk. But isn't the risk of staying in the same place is actually what the risk is? This is the kind of ironic thing about it. If you don't take the step, you're staying where you are. The reason you're looking for the step is because you're unfulfilled where you are. So actually, you're taking a risk by staying where you are instead of just taking that leap of faith and seeing what happens. And also, whatever happens, happens. What's the worst that can happen? You can always go a different path or just slightly tweak your journey or something. So, you just feel the fear and do it anyway again.
And there's always a way forward. I mean, like if you're listening to this podcast on your phone and you can afford a phone, you always have a backup. Like there's always going to be something else you can do. You got to recognize your position in life. So if you have a computer, you have a phone, you got a TV, you got a house. Take a risk. I mean, like there's not really, I mean, like you're going to be okay if you take the risk. You're going to learn along the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the key. But it's like we said, like society makes you feel like you can't or you shouldn't. And again, it's a risk, but just go for it. You've great examples, Ali. That's even just so far, like that's four things you've just gone for it, which is definitely 100% the right way to go. It's like going into cold water, a cold plunge, going into the ocean when it's middle of winter and it's absolutely Baltic. You tiptoeing in ain't going to be fun. It's just dive straight in and it's over. And then you're in there and you're enjoying it and you're getting empowered by it.
Exactly. And then the more that you do it, it becomes easier over time to continue to take that leap of faith.
Exactly. So you started looking into the whole coaching side of things, and you were in Melbourne. You were sharing a flat with another guy. How did things go from there?
Pretty badly, man. So like because it
Yeah.
was COVID, I landed in Melbourne on the day of the lockdown in Melbourne, and the lockdown never lifted. So my whole plan was scuppered. I was supposed to coach one-to-one, couldn't do that. So I decided, okay, like let's try do it online. So that's when I discovered online coaching in the online space. And I decided to build my first coaching business, which was Mind Access Life Coaching. And I built it up very quickly because I had nowhere to go, nowhere to be. It was lockdown. But there was a lot of survival pressure as well because I quit my job without really thinking too much about it. So I was in a very expensive apartment. So
Had
it
you much
was more,
savings actually gone into that?
so
Had you much savings, say, going into you quit your job? Had you much of a kind of backup, a buffer, or was it only just a little bit? And you really need to get things going fast.
I kind of manufactured that for myself because my money at the time was tied up in certain areas where I meticulously made sure that I couldn't touch. So I always had urgency. It
Yeah,
was always the point of like, like even if it was there, I couldn't take it even if I wanted to. So I had to sink or swim.
good. Yeah, again, all or nothing. You're definitely all or nothing mentality. So with things, you go for it 100%.
It's just the nature of life, that's what makes it fun.
Exactly, yeah. So, do you say it didn't go as you planned initially? Do you start looking at online? Where did it go from there? Did it take you long to get a client, or did you build up a bit of content, or what type of way did it go for you?
I started creating content and I slowly started to build my personal brand out. It worked kind of well. I got a lot of like initial speaking gigs and podcast related stuff, but in terms of getting a client, it took me 6 months because I had a lot of people jump on calls, but because I didn't really know what I was doing apart from free coaching, I used to coach a lot of people for free at the beginning. I didn't know how to actually close a deal with a client. I couldn't show them the value I provided. I mean, I would talk about what I could do for them without realizing what they wanted me to do for them. So I was always seeing it from my perspective. So
Yeah,
because of that, it took me a long time to close my first client. It took about 6 months.
yeah, yeah. That was like a tough 6 months. Like, obviously, elements that were enjoyable, but from the financial point of view, that was like a worrying time, and increasingly so. But again, it shows again perseverance, not giving up on your dream. Like that's the biggest, I suppose, message from what you did. You just kept at it, and you weren't going backwards. You also had the option to go backwards, but you were only focused on what you wanted to achieve. Is that kind of where you were at mentally at that time?
Yeah, no matter what, it was like I'm not going back because I had already burned all the boats. I had moved to a different place and left my career, and then I was posting stuff online about leaving your job, and people I was connected with on LinkedIn were in my company, so it's kind of impossible for me to go back even if I tried. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
made it the way.
It's great. You seriously did burn the boats, though, that's for sure. If that was your content. But again, that's what you have to do. Again, like we've said, if you're going to do something, go all out, like go for it. And the thing is, life is short, time moves so fast. And I think this is something that can't be impressed upon people enough, the whole thing about time. And I say it a lot, like when I'm sharing stuff or talking to people, because we live in such a fast-paced world now, and such a kind of stress-induced world, and people are literally on the hamster wheel and they never feel enough, but they don't even have the time or take the time to stop and just go, is this what my life is all about? It's actually what I want. Like you said, like you actually hated your job. Then you needed to get escapism through drugs and alcohol. So that says a lot. Like the way a lot of people live for Friday. Their whole week is literally waiting for Friday. it's not a very fulfilling existence. So it's like for people, they need to press stop on a regular basis and reflect on their life and then just make changes. And again, not be fearful.
Absolutely. It's the thing about fear. Fear is such a manufactured thing, right? Because it's all about the psychology of like herd mentality. When you look at, especially when you work in a company and you see what everyone else is doing, human nature is to compare ourselves to other people. And if everyone around you is doing the same thing, you don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. So a lot of people don't pursue their passion because they're afraid that they may be judged poorly by others. I mean, even when I first opened my coaching business, could you believe that the people I was most worried would not support me were the people around me in my life? I was like, oh my goodness, are they going to like my page? Are they going to like my content? Now I've been doing this for almost 4 years. I don't give a shit. Like if you like it or you
Mm.
don't, it's not if it doesn't help you, then it doesn't help you. It's designed for people who can obtain my help, right?
Yeah.
So that's the
Just
correct.
on that, actually, Geoff, because that's an important point. Because a big, you could call it, it's a big issue in the world for people is that they care so much about what everyone else thinks, and it's a comparison society. Obviously, all marketing is based on comparison, make people feel like shit, basically, so they buy the products and so on. Like when you like that left a job, you'd kick the drugs, the alcohol, you'd moved. Like whereabouts would like that self-esteem, confidence, not giving a shit about other people's opinions, where would you been then versus let's say a couple of years into your coaching?
Oh, totally different. Totally different. I used to have terrible social anxiety.
Yeah,
I when I first started doing this, honestly, I was terrified. Like I was so afraid of whether people, I would spend my whole day checking my content to see who liked it, checking the analytics. I was so worried. If my family didn't support me, I was like, oh my goodness, like they don't care about what I do. And
yeah.
now I'm just like, whatever, like,
Yeah, yeah. It's a hard one. Like, but that's where again it's working on yourself and just doing it anyway. It's like one thing I would have consciously done is I would like while I can be extroverted if when I need to be, I'm introvert to my nature. So it's like even going to events, like face-to-face events. I would have been type definitely hide at the back, not want to get called out, definitely not offering up a question or an answer. But I knew if I was to advance and get into the events business where I'd be speaking at them or running them myself, I had to overcome that. So it was a case of again, feel the fear, do it anyway. I made a conscious decision. I'm going to sit up the front row, and if people ask for a volunteer or ask a question or has anyone questions, I'm going to. I'm the one who's going to offer it up as much as it petrified me. And then it's like that. You just have to go for it. Like, that's why it's interesting even for what you're saying there. You cared about what other people thought. You didn't feel support, especially by family, which unfortunately is so common. Like it's amazing how family won't don't support, but it's a different consciousness too. Like they probably thought, Geoff, go get a bloody job or stay in your job. Like I'm 30 years self-employed and I still get told, will you ever get a job? So it's a different consciousness, I suppose, a different kind of view on life. But like how did you like I know you just went for it, which is amazing and so commendable and admirable that you didn't, part of you was thinking, oh Christ, this video, will anyone watch it? Checking the likes for a bit of social proof and that bit of dopamine. What did you do to kind of improve from really caring what other people think to, like you said, now a few years later, you truly don't give a shit and you just do your thing? What kind of stuff did you do to bring about that shift for you?
I would say there's two things. One was the validation of my own, I guess, ability to coach because when I started getting clients, I realized that they were getting results and I was very happy and they were very happy. But secondly was me deciding to take my business away from Australia and just travel the world. So for 2023 and 2024, and even now, I don't even live in Australia because I just move around to different countries and put myself into different environments where I challenge myself to meet new people, try new sports, do different things. And because I continuously push my comfort zone, it's hard to go back into the shell of, oh, I care about other people's opinion because I've already expanded my comfort zone so much that thinking about something like that is almost impossible. I have bigger fish to fry. So I've just continuously done that over the years.
Brilliant. Like that, growing and evolving. Like I always stress to people, it's like, like a promise or a commitment to yourself to evolve into a better version of yourself to your last breath, basically. Like we spoke before, like tell the listeners even, some of the things that you did on your travels, like that, getting outside your comfort zones, challenge yourself, get new skills. Some of those things that you told me that you learned, this, like sports and so on.
Yeah, so like the first time I traveled solo and I backpacked across multiple countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, Indonesia. And when I was in Japan that first time around, well, I'll go back a little bit. When I was in corporate, I had a a picture of this kung fu school that I wanted to go to, which was in Osaka. When I went to Japan in 2023, I decided to visit that school, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pay to sign up. So I used to be a lot fatter than I am now. So between 2023 June to 2024 February, I lost somewhere around about 16 kilos so I can go train in Japan. And when I went there, I basically trained kung fu, like sanda kickboxing, like tai chi, training cardio, all these different aspects of kung fu, full time for 3 months.
Mm.
And I was doing that while also running my coaching business early in the morning and late at night. And by doing this, I kind of like pushed my comfort zone so much once again, living with different people from around the world, training, fighting every day. And then after that as well, I decided to do the same in Thailand. I went to train Muay Thai while also coaching. So by doing these things, like I just continuously challenged myself to face my fears. One of my biggest fears was getting hit in the face. And
Mm.
after doing these things so many times, and getting hit in the face so many times, I realized that there's not really that.
Yeah, again, it comes back to the fear thing. People again be afraid of things. Like you had that fear, but then you overcame it by hitting it head on. It's like, something similar for me, for instance, would be I hate the way it's called a fear of heights because it's more I get disoriented or dizzy or so on. And it could be just standing on a table. But whenever there's opportunity, it could be a roller coaster or whatever it might be, it's a case, okay, I just need to throw myself into this. And that's again, it's like a big message from your journey so far is very much that recognize what needs to change that truly doesn't need to change because you're not in a place in life where you want to be, and then just throw yourself into it. And with an awareness that, look, if things don't go the way you want to, you can always go a different direction or step back or whatever. There's always options. And this is what people, I suppose, need to learn. And, again, goes back to of life's for living, time is precious, maximize it, even be a fear, have fear of regret because you don't want to get to your last days and think back and think, I should have done this, should have done that, wish I'd done that, and have a whole bucket list of stuff you never did. So it's great the way you incorporated things like that, like Muay Thai and Kung Fu, because what I always see with disciplines like that, from the mind point of view, they're so powerful. There's no coincidence that in your own journey, going from not caring or caring so much what people thought and insecurity, social anxiety to where you are now, where you do not care and you're everywhere, the fact you did two disciplines like that, it's no coincidence because I've always thought, those kind of disciplines, they're so powerful for the mind. And in reality, they're the type of things I think everybody should do. It's like in school, even so for a couple of months, because the mental resilience and fortitude it'll give you will be monumental. And you're perfect proof of that.
It's very true because we build up a lot of fear through inaction. Like, for example, if you're afraid to go and train Muay Thai, you're afraid to go and train Kung Fu because you're afraid of getting hit or you're afraid of learning a new skill or even being around new people, you
Mm.
start to manifest that fear because you're placing blocks and justifying why you shouldn't do it. But when you do it and realize it's actually not that bad, you can slowly begin to alleviate all these older fears you had. Like, for example, I had a lot of fears in terms of social anxiety, fear of conflict, limiting beliefs in my ability to be fit and strong. And all these things come from childhood, but by doing them in real life, I prove to myself that these fears are a lie because we create limiting beliefs based on the way we were treated as children. We create limiting beliefs based on our failures in life. And the only way to overturn them is through evidential proof that we can do otherwise.
Mm. That's it, proving to yourself, exactly. Again, taking that step. So just want to go back before, let's say you lost the weight and all. Was weight something you had like for a lot of your life, or was it more from the few years of, abuse, toxic abuse, or what phase of your life had you a lot of weight?
Definitely that, yeah. The drug addiction and the alcoholism, like it really took its toll on my body. Like if you look at me now compared to pictures years ago,
Yeah.
I was very bloated, very fat, like just awful, like really you could see that. I would say I looked older then than I do now.
Yeah, I've no doubt. Like, I must check out a picture actually because you look quite young now and you look fresh and healthy. And again, that's the thing. If someone is in control of their life, especially from a health perspective, exercise, food, fresh air, all the other areas of that, it radiates and like it clearly radiates from you. Because what are you, late 20s? Is that correct? Am I right in my
20,
maths?
29, my friend.
Yeah, yeah. So it radiates, and and that's the thing. You've people who are early 20s, 30s, whatever, and they look decades older. And then people who are of a certain age and they look way younger than they actually are. So you truly reap what you sow. And that's where again, someone who comes out of what you were in, that deserves so much respect because it's a difficult thing to do. Any form of addiction is so hard. Like so many people have food addiction, so there's many addictions out there. Anyone comes out, deserves a lot of kudos. And it's a journey. And it's like you were committed to what you wanted the result to be, and it was a non-negotiable in your head. It had to happen. It's like even with the coaching. It took 6 months to get that first client. Most people would have given up after a month or so out of fear financially. You were there, no, I believe this is going to work and I'm going to do whatever the hell it takes to make it happen. So like, again, comes back to resilience that people need. And look, it doesn't matter if it's you, Geoff, or me, or whoever, we all have the power. This thing for listeners, every single one, again, has the power to do whatever they want with their life and create whatever they want in their life and overcome whatever obstacles or if it's addictions or whatever it may be. You just have to take the action. And like, in the short bit you've shared so far, look at the amount of actions you took that have taken you to where you are now. If you didn't take those actions, you wouldn't be where you are now. And the likelihood is you'd be worse because people don't typically stay the same. You kind of grow or you die. You go in one direction or the other. So, that's amazing. And growing up, so you wouldn't have had weight. It was more just during that addictive phase. Yeah. Those kind of 8 years is where the weight escalated.
Yeah, like I mean, I was always a chubby kid, but it wasn't like as bad as that period of
Yeah.
time. Like that period
Yeah.
of time, I was like, whoa, like
Yeah, like that was another big thing for you to conquer, because especially if like that, if you're a chubby kid, it was a bit an element of it, in your self-esteem, self-image naturally, that would have affected you. And to go from where you were, like with the weight, to where you ended up going to do kung fu. What was it you did? Was it more about the nutrition? Was it more the exercise? Was it a good combo of both? Like, what was your journey to kind of get in good shape to start the kung fu?
oh, it was a long one. So basically, when I came back from Indonesia in mid 2023, I decided to change the way I consume calories. So I counted all my calories, made sure to eat majority protein, less carbs, made sure to train twice a day. So I did this like crazy thing where like I would go running in the morning or the evening, and then I would go to the gym. And then slowly over time, I started doing Jeet Kune Do in Perth as well. So I would train. I always train twice a day for this whole
Mm,
period of time. No rest days, nothing like that. Just good sleep, good nutrition, eating high
yeah,
protein, eat out maybe like once a week with friends, drink a lot of water, just like the basic stuff really. And like making sure
yeah.
that the mentality changes. Oh, and one thing as well I should add is I took ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is a major thing that changed. You mentioned earlier that when you grow up chubby or whatever it is, in your self-image, in your psychology, you are that person. Ashwagandha helps you to detach from that. So
Mm,
subconsciously, you change the way you view yourself. Your childhood trauma is released because ashwagandha helps to heal your
mm,
nervous system, and it
mm.
allows you to let go of the certain way in which you felt you were. Like even now, like sometimes if I'm eating something that is unhealthy, I can somehow still feel like that person that was like 100 kilos, even though
Yeah.
I'm like 76, 77 kilos now.
Yeah.
But even though I can feel that, it's different, right? So that's what I mean. Ashwagandha really helps to detach that feeling in your mind.
Yeah, and that's so important because again, that's why I was asking you that question about, what were you like as a kid and when it had you to weight and it's interesting that like that, as you said, you were a chubby kid. So there was always something there that people could be 50, 60 and they're still controlled by their 5-year-old self. And that's why people again have to use things, ashwagandha, as well as every other kind of good, healthy lifestyle habit or product or supplement out there to again release themselves from traumas or limiting beliefs and subconscious stuff that is holding them back. Because even I had a client recently who we identified an issue they had at the moment. They were 50 this year actually. Identified a small issue, but it was a troublesome one. And it ended up being from when she was 4 years of age. And experience then was the reason why she was feeling what she was at nearly 50 years of age. And it was limiting her life. So, like you're saying, even when you do something now that's like a little glimpse into what you might have done before, you literally are reliving it. It's just a difference. It's like now you're in control. So you're getting sensations, but you're not going to be going back because now you're in control of your life and you have the discipline. But it's amazing, like the impact of even something from years and decades ago, the impact it can still have and the hold it has on us. And so I'm always stressing to people that everyone has traumas of some sort, whether it be small or massive, and it's all relative to the individual. We have to constantly be working on ourselves, like I say, evolving, to cut the chains, to cut the cords, to make peace with different things or even different people. And until you do that, you're not truly free. And that's why you have to keep working on yourself continuously. Like I'm sure you're a different person now than you were even 12 months ago in some form, like, yeah? Like, would it be healthier or fitter or mentally you're stronger, more resilient, like you're constantly in a growth cycle.
Absolutely, and I think that's very important. Is we should always be in a, if I think that if you are the same person now as you were 12 months ago, you have the same thoughts, nothing has changed. That's a serious problem because you haven't moved forward. You're trying to maintain the status quo, and this creates a sense of frustration. It doesn't mean you have to change your life incredibly. It's like, oh, you don't have to go travel or do this or that or this or that, but your perspective needs to be evolving in some way or form. If you're not perceiving the world in a manner that is conducive to something that you want or is positive in some manner, then ultimately something is very wrong.
Mm,
Your mind and perspective needs to continuously be evolving because you need new experiences to meet new people or to learn from other people around you. If you're not learning or developing, as you mentioned earlier, you are actually slowly degenerating because
mm.
nothing is changing and you are regressing to your lowest possible form.
Mm. You see a lot with people who retire actually, the typical societal thing of, you go to school, you go to college, you might do a master's, then you get a job, you're in that job then till you're 50s, 60s, depending on what country you're in, then you retire. And a lot of people within a couple of years of retiring, they die because literally they have no purpose anymore. They don't know how to actually live. They've forgotten how to live. And it's very sad because again, that's what people are literally spent decades working to get to that point when then they're going to enjoy their life, but they don't even know how to enjoy their life anymore. And like I said, you don't have a purpose. And that's why we have to always have some kind of purpose, have to have always some kind of growth. And the purpose could be literally, could just be gardening. It could be growing, some food in a couple of like flower pots. Like it's not talking about grand scale. It's like even for yourself, like you did some monumental shifts and changes, but someone else might just do some tiny little ones. It's all relative again. The main thing again is that you're growing and that you're at least advancing today on yesterday and this year on last year, and you're becoming a different person in a positive sense.
And that's all part of it. If you can't create that distinction, then there is something very wrong. There should be a new and an old. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. A lot of self-development or self-improvement is there's something wrong with you. And you know the
Yeah.
gurus like Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, it's like something wrong with you. There's
Mm,
nothing wrong with you.
mm,
It's just that you need to learn to accept yourself, love yourself, respect yourself, and decide what you want to be and just work towards that. But there's nothing wrong with individuals per se. It's more of the fact that they need to accept themselves for what they are,
yeah.
and then they can move towards something better.
Yeah, like that's a hugely important point, Jeff, because again, it's against society. And like I said, even gurus and very respected people, they're going along those angles. And people are one of the biggest issues for people besides comparison is, and that's a reason for it anyway, is that they don't feel enough. It's like society's bar of what successful is or happy is. Like everyone has their own perception. Like I'm sure my version of what happiness is going to be different to yours, my success different to yours, as well as everybody. Like one person might be happy around a camper van and that's it. They're jumping out of jobs, working in hostels, being like a hippie, let's say. Another person might want to have big, expensive yachts and jets and whatever. Like you have to again make sure you're aligned to whatever your values are and whatever makes you happy and whatever your personal perception of success is, not society's, not somebody else's. It's a case of working and living your own life. And this is why these messages are so important to people to see that again they have the power, they have the control, and they need to start aligning their lives with how they want to live. Where again, at the end of their days, they look back and they look back with a smile on their face, as opposed to again lots of regrets.
I agree with you, and a lot of people, I think, don't reach that realization because they are stuck in an area of comfort. Like, especially with society today, the instigation is to have people kind of all in the status quo. And a lot of people are happy living the same life on repeat because it means they have safety, security, and most importantly, acceptance from their peers.
Mm,
It's very hard to be understood if we don't understand something. So, like, for example, the thing that people fear the most, something they don't understand. And therefore, when a lot of people think, oh, I want to do this with my life, or I want to create this business or create this piece of art, they shy away from it because they would rather be accepted over actually putting themselves out there in a way that is courageous. And I think when we start to move towards these realms of, doing it for ourselves rather than doing it for other people, we can actually start to move towards a positive direction. Everything starts with accepting ourselves, loving ourselves, doing it for ourselves. And when we can do that, we fill up our cup so that we can help other people in return.
yeah, 100%. Like without a doubt, that's the most important place. It's like the thing of, you're the most important person in your life. It's like on an airplane about putting on your own oxygen mask first. We hear these things, but it doesn't sink into people. And again, like that, back to self-esteem, self-image. Like when people haven't got that, they don't truly love themselves, and they're going to be limited. And it's important we said a little while ago about, you are okay, it's not that there's something wrong with you, because that's your moment. In that moment, you are who you are. You may have baggage, you may have trauma, you may have whatever, but it's you are who you are at that moment. It's a case you can work on those to improve further. Doesn't mean it's anything wrong with you, because again, there isn't a person alive who hasn't got some form of limiting belief or traumas or something. But unfortunately, like the whole school system and this life system in general doesn't even address it, doesn't mention it, doesn't train people for it or how to deal with it, or even to understand why their life is going the direction it's going. And this is why, again, people have to go on their own voyage of self-discovery. Again, it's like where you are now versus just 4 or 5 years ago. Like literally a completely different person, different type of attitudes. And again, happiness is on the rise in a dramatic way compared to when you're in that job and then drug and alcohol addiction. So again, it just shows again the power that we have again that we just need to harness and run with it. But it's about small steps. It can be gigantic steps or small steps, but usually it starts with small. Like for yourself, I'm sure there's a couple of small steps that led to some big steps. It's like even the journey of losing the weight to get ready to be able to do the Kung Fu and then the Muay Thai. You had to take those steps or else you couldn't do those disciplines. So we have to again look at the steps and just focus on stepping forward. And once we're moving forward, at least we're growing. And that's the key, really.
Absolutely. One thing is to not do too much at once. As you mentioned, take the steps. So build your foundations first. If you're trying to lose weight, don't try to run 10Ks, try to run 1 kilometer. Build your foundations. And once your foundations are set, you can keep doing things eternally. You know, like for example, once you learn how to train or once you learn how to run, you never really forget. Your body can get back into the groove straight away. But it's initially building that foundation that helps you over time. And you can always build upon that. So take it one step at a time is my personal mantra, one step at a time.
Yeah, definitely. And like just on that even, like one thing that's important for people is having, routines, disciplines, commitments to themselves, like on a daily basis and so on. And it's always very important how you start your day and even how you end the day in terms of how it impacts your sleep. Now, maybe share with people what kind of way does your day look like? How do you start? Even what time, what do you do? And then say the reverse at the end of the day, how do you typically finish it?
Right. So for me, I wake up when usually I set my alarm for somewhere between like 8 o'clock to 9. I will call my partner, wish her good morning, and then I'll start working. If I have clients in the morning, I'll work with those clients. Then I always hit the gym. In my mid-afternoon, I have like a little lunch break. I go to the training, and then I will spend the rest of the day working, do different things, have different meetings, and then I'll make sure that I go for an evening walk, which I will be going for later. And then I
Mhm.
will call my partner again, and then I'll go to sleep.
Very good. And like it's all like so it's a mixture of like, again, you've got self-care scattered throughout it. You're feeding your relationship, which is important. Something so simple as that, even if it's only sending a message. But again, this is where again in the fast-paced world we live in, a lot of people in relationships don't even think of that. Like they're getting on with the day. It's like they can't get on top of things fast enough because there's so much to do. But even something as simple as that, where it be a quick call or a text message, means the world. And it's just serving that relationship in a proper way. And then you got your work and helping people and so on. And like I presume sleep factors in a good way in your life. Yeah, like it's a bit of a priority to get quality sleep.
It is, I make sure that I get at least 6 hours to 7 hours a night.
Yeah, and quality because again, a lot of people will think they have to get so many hours of sleep, but it's again down to the quality as opposed to the quantity, like it is for most things, really. And do you have any particular like end of day? I know like you finish your work, you talk to your partner, you've done your walk. Anything else you do specifically around the sleeping time, like this 30 minutes, hour before bed, they feel helps you to get deeper sleep?
Not really, no. I feel like I sleep very well because I spend a lot of my day outlaying energy. Like I don't sit around very much. Like I'm always working or on a call with somebody or I'm training. I use so much energy that by the time I'm about to sleep, I'm done. Like I just want to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when people start exercising, and they might have had trouble with sleep. When you start exercising, you don't have any trouble anymore for a while anyway, because your body is so tired from what you're doing. And then your body naturally wants to recover anyway and repair cells and repair muscles. So you can get quite a good sleep really, really fast once you start exercising, which is great, obviously. And that's an important adjustment for people because there's a lot of people who get a lot of sleep. They're not getting quality sleep, with the way they're living and lack of energy expenditure. Like I say to a lot of people, if you look at modern lifestyle, most people may in a day barely get 2.5 to 3,000 steps in, which is insane because that's like a tiny, tiny amount of steps. If you even went back 10, 15, 20 years, people are doing 15 to 20 just from normal life, moving, working when work was a lot more physical as opposed to more office based. So this is where like exercise now is a necessity. Like it isn't really a choice anymore in terms of you're going to have negative impacts if you do not exercise, whether it be muscles tightening, biomechanical issues, gaining fat. You won't have that endorphin kick, even the energy flow in your body and your chakras and stuff, they can't be right. So we have to exercise now. Just become, it needs for people to move away from the aesthetic side and just be more from the health, well-being, longevity, functionality. Like there's so many benefits to it.
People need to stop seeing exercise as a point of pain and think of it more as like if you put fuel in the car, you need to use that car and drive it to use up the fuel. If you're going to eat food, you need to burn that food. Otherwise, why are you eating it? It's
Mm,
not exercise, it's just equilibrium. If you
yeah.
eat food, you need to burn it. Otherwise, you will become fat. There just has to be balance in all things.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of putting it, and like this is why as well. Like I'm always very positive about kids getting into exercise and people getting their kids to exercise because if you look at anyone, especially in 30s, 40s, 50s generations, exercise was seen as something you had to do if there was a holiday or a wedding coming up and you felt you needed to lose a few pounds, tone up or whatever. And then, like even with a wedding, they get married and then don't do anything after. It's like anticlimax and stop. Where if you get kids into exercise, whether it be in the gym, outdoor gyms, going running, whatever it might be, they see exercise then as fun. It's just a way of life. It's just normal. So they're going to grow up as adults where exercise is normal for them and they enjoy it. And then that's going to go on through their generation and generation. So it's very important for people to get kids into exercising of some short sort and create a positive association because, like I said, especially generation 30s, 40s, 60s and above, exercise is seen, like you said, as pain. That's all people see it as opposed to being something super positive.
It's meant to be enjoyable. If
Hmm.
you're not exercising, then something is off because you can't just input energy without output. Everything in life has a yin and yang and a balance, and because we call it exercise, we see it as something external to ourselves, but realistically, it is just the nature of being alive. Your body needs to be in motion. I mean, we're the apex predator of the planet. Our body is the most adapted to running long distances. Out of every single animal on this planet, humans are number one at running long distance. And look at us today. Look at how
Yeah,
far we've fallen.
yeah. It's amazing, like, and that's where, like I said, it's exercise now isn't an option, it's a necessity, or you're going to have problems. You're
Mm.
drawing again disease towards you, drawing pain, bone disease, so many different things, so yeah, super important. What kind of if you were to give kind of top 3 to 5 or something like that, life skills or disciplines that will positively impact people's lives, what kind of ones would you give? What kind of advice, let's say, skills and tips?
The number one skill I think that everybody should have is adaptability, being able to change and do things on a whim. So like if things change in your day or in your life, you can pick yourself up and just keep moving. The next thing I think is basically have a good self-positive confidence in yourself. You need to look in the mirror and not just like yourself for how you look, but you need to be comfortable in the body you have and the person you are. You need to accept that. And that only comes with being confident. It comes with being confident, competent, and assured with who you are as a person.
Mm,
The next thing that I would recommend everybody to have is to have emotional intelligence, to develop this actively, like try to actually understand other people, try to understand yourself, become self-aware, and try to recognize a lot of what makes people tick, because the better you understand people, the better you understand yourself, the easier time you're going to have in life. The next thing I would recommend is constantly always keep yourself active. No matter what happens, always keep moving, always stay active, always learn something new to change the way your body moves, because your body is your home. If you don't look after your body, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you will not enjoy it. And the last thing of all that I would recommend is self-acceptance, accepting your past for what you are today and making sure that you can move towards it. And I know that for myself as a life and business coach, all of this tie in. If we look at business, business is just an aspect of how you live your life. If you are living a good life, your business will flourish. If your business flourishes, you will create a good life. All of this come together as part of a balance or an equilibrium. And if you're not looking after yourself as an individual, it doesn't matter what you try to build, it will fall apart.
completely, yeah. Like I always stress to people, like key foundations, the whole mind body health area, because when you do have control of that, as you said, everything else positive impacts. Like your relationships have to be better, because if you're getting control of mind body health, your relationship with yourself is going to improve anyway. even your relationship with others, because your energy is completely different, your outlook, your perspective, everything. So when you attract things into your life, then they're better for you as opposed to being bad for you. Then obviously in terms of business, your mind's going to work much better. You're going to dream bigger. You're going to take bigger action. Financially, that's going to be impacted then as well. So everything gets impacted by it. And this is now, I suppose, people need to go on a flip, like society needs to go on a flip where there's a constant focus and drive on killing yourself at work and striving to get money and material stuff. But you're operating 20, 30% of your capacity because you're not taking care of yourself at all. So it's like a flip, get back to basics and focus on getting your own foundation right. And all those will improve anyway. So you don't need to be like in a panic mode about, you have no time to exercise, you have no time for proper food or enough sleep or mindfulness and meditation or anything. You have to do those things because if you don't do them, then you're actually limiting your potential. So like people need to go through that kind of like a flip of their mindset, really.
You're absolutely right. They need to prioritize things differently. Health is wealth. It doesn't matter how much wealth you have if you don't have health, it all goes to waste. You need to have good health. And that's why I really respect what you do as well, Dave. You help people get healthy and keep them fit and have a positive mindset because people need that in their lives. They don't realize it, but everyone thinks they just want profit. The best
Mm.
profit you can ever have is to live long and have a good body and a good mind, Like so focus on your health.
Exactly, yeah. And like that longevity. It's like for me, like we're meant to be able to live till 130, something like that. So I'm gunning for that. So what I do today is going to impact my tomorrow. So, I want to be independent. I want to be living on my own terms. I want to be fit and healthy, be able to do what I want. Obviously, naturally, a little bit slower at that stage, but that I'll still be on my own terms, independent. And that ain't going to happen unless I'm thriving and I'm looking, as I said, evolving, always looking, how can I improve? How can I do better? And make sure I'm bringing as much happiness into my life. And one other thing, actually, we touched on before, and we've touched on a little bit here, is again the importance of people in your life and the people who are in your life. And I always stress to people, we need to do an audit. So maybe touch on that from your own perspective and your own experience, because even you touched on there earlier, when you first started out, your family weren't very supportive. They just probably couldn't comprehend what the hell you were after doing, really. Was the situation of what you stopped or threw away as they saw it. How important has it been for you the last few years and how you've looked at your circle, the way you looked at it back then, the way you look at it now, and how you bring the right kind of people in?
Back then, when I was a lot younger, my perspective of my circle was people I grew up with and people that I had met that were not necessarily having a positive impact on my life, but I more felt like I wanted validation from. But the more that I've developed over the years, the more I've realized the people I want around me are people that will be honest to me, people that will be direct to me, people that will tell it to me how it is, and most importantly, people that are loyal and have integrity. These are the people I want in my circle. And that's the people that I do have in my circle. That's the people that I have in terms of my relationship, my close friends, my family that I have reconnected with. A lot of these things, I only want people around me that I can trust. And for me, that's the most important thing. I know we talk a lot about, like they say, make sure your circle is this person, that person, this attribute. For me, the only thing I want in my circle is people I can trust. That's all I care about.
Very important, for sure, because you could have loads of other attributes and not be trustworthy. And like we need to be able to trust people and feel comfortable and confident and that they, have our back and they have our best interest at heart. But it's really important. And like, in your transition to that, like I said before, you would have had people in your life, family, friends, and so on, that weren't really serving you. And then now, like, you're very conscious of being strict with that and only open the door to the right kind of people. Nearly like there's a qualifying list of qualities that people have to have. How did you find the transitional part of that? Like, was that a real struggle? How did you deal with, limiting exposure to people or possibly even eliminating them? How did you get on with that?
I never eliminate anybody, or I don't even have like a way of auditing people. I don't remove people from my life, but I put a lot of time and energy into the people that I trust and I care about, and to the
Mm,
people that I do not particularly trust in that same way, I just afford less time. It's not such as I don't push people away or say like you can't come near me if this or that. No, anyone is welcome. I have an open door policy. I love
mm.
meeting people and that kind of thing. But the people I continuously make time for to call every week, to talk to every day, to care and find out about their life and, like make sure that I'm helping them if they need it. I'm actively doing that every day because these are the people I care about the most. But I can't care about everybody that much. But these are the people I trust the most, I care about the most, and they're number one in my life. And then there's layers beyond that,
Yeah, brilliant. Because exactly that, like what you're giving your time and energy and focus to No, eating that is not going to. That's naturally going to drift a bit anyway. You don't. It's not like a case you have to nearly have a hard conversation. Look, you're out of my life. You're naturally going to not give as much time and energy to people who aren't serving versus the ones who are. So it's a great way of doing it and explaining it for sure. Tell us
Hmm.
what kind of in store, like we're in, as we record this, we're in what, February 2025. You've obviously been an amazing journey over the last 4 years. You've developed so much as a person, but also the impact you're now making in the world, and the confidence you have in yourself, and so on. What does the rest of this year have in store for Geoff? Like, what kind of plans you have? What are you aiming for? Maybe you might even be doing another discipline. You might be aiming for something, a new challenge or something that you're going to take on.
Man, this year I'm very excited for it because in the next 2 months I'm releasing my book. I wrote the book actually last year in February, but because of all the things that have been happening in my life, it's taken a long time to get it together. But next 2 months, that book is coming out. The book is about how to become consistent. It's almost ready to go.
Amazing.
On
What's it called? Or have you a
it's
title yet?
I do have a title. I'm not going to release the title just
Okay,
yet,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the book
Cool.
is about how to be consistent.
Brilliant. Most important word of all. It's like being persistently consistent. That's how you change life. Great stuff. Fair
Precisely.
play to you. Brilliant. Another, what do you call it? Feather in your cap. Another good step in the right direction for you.
Thank you, man. I hope so. So there's that coming out. I'm gonna make sure that I keep traveling as well. So like I'm still gonna be spending time in this part of the world. I'm gonna be training. I'm gonna be working a lot more. But the most important thing I think this year is I want to consolidate a lot of things in my life. I want to spend more time with family, more time with friends, more time with my partner, release my book, release my new online course as well that's coming out. I will also have other things and building my coaching business even bigger and better this year. So I want to be able to have more clients on board. I want to work with more people that excite me. I want to do more group coaching programs, more keynote speeches, all this kind of stuff that I love doing already. I just want to do more of it. That's all I can say.
Brilliant.
Consolidation is the key of this year, consolidation and consistency.
Yeah, brilliant. Two C's, two important ones. That's great. Great plans. And look, it's again that alone, what you shared again, is showing growth. You're looking at growth, you've got the plan for growth, and you're going to take action on it. And again, that's the thing for people. Set your marker of what you're aiming for. How can I take where I am now to better? And what is better? Quantify it, be very clear on it, and then what steps do I need to take to get it? It's like writing your book. It was a concept. Everyone has a book in them, but how many people actually write one? It's a tiny percentage. But you had a concept, now it's close to becoming a reality. And then that's going to help so many different people's lives. So again, it's about you taking action on writing that book. And in terms of it coming out, then obviously timing's important too. So, so all that's great in terms of your own personal growth and the impact it's going to have on other people. Make sure again, like that, when the book comes out and your new online course, share it with me and I'll share it out across the community. Okay. Because, at the end of the day, anyone who's making a positive impact in the world and is, again, truly authentic and is of service, it's important we give them exposure because there isn't enough of them in the world. So the ones that are there, we need to help them along as much as possible. So like that's great stuff. Excited for you, Geoff. Like that's brilliant stuff altogether.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you, man. And I just want to come back to one thing you said is like there are many chapters in our book of life. If you know all the chapters, you just know what needs to happen next. So make sure if you're listening to this, define the chapters that you want to have in the story of your life, and it makes it a lot easier.
Exactly. And like that again, you hold a pen, so write that book, write those chapters, make them epic, make them memorable. I always say, like, be able to look back with a smile on your face. That's what we want. We want to smile, not regret. And if people want to reach you, check out more about you, maybe even check out your courses and stuff like that. Where's the best places to go?
Best place to find me right now is Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube. You can find me at Geoff Seow Official on Instagram, Geoff Seow on LinkedIn, YouTube as well. You can find me. Check out my website, download my free book, have a look at my course, come and chat to me. I have a link there you can come and speak to me. Look at all my free resources, all the kind of stuff, my podcasts, interviews, all this kind of stuff. It's all there on my Instagram. Check it out, and hopefully I can provide you some value in your life.
No doubt about it. So, like, guys, in the show notes, there'll be all the links to Geoff, his website, all his different social medias, everything. So make sure you go check it out, follow him, recommend him, share out this podcast. Obviously, let other people hear it because look, we can only get anything like this. Our content can only get to so many people through ourselves, as true people like yourselves sharing our content that gets it out to more people. And then you also play a role in making a positive impact on other people's lives. This is the power every one of us has. We can all help other people. And that's the way no, we need to be. It needs to be a world where we genuinely are giving of ourselves without expectation of return. We're genuinely aiming to help people. If that's sharing content, if it's telling people about Geoff's book, some stuff that I have, somebody else, it doesn't matter. Like just do what you can to help other people. And it's a win-win because you feel good doing it, especially if they do run with it, and then they feel good. So everyone's winning. So look, Geoff, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know it's late enough over there in Singapore, so really appreciate you coming on this, adding so much value. Thank you for being so open and vulnerable with your journey because, again, it's like in our journeys and our darkest times, that's how we can really impact people. And best of luck with everything that's going on for you in 2025.
Thanks so much, Dave. And thank you for having me on this podcast. I had a great time. You're an incredible host, and I wish you all the best for the year ahead as well.
Perfect, Geoff. Thanks so much. So, guys, that's it for another episode of the Mind Body Health Podcast. Make sure you leave a comment, answer the poll, subscribe or follow if you haven't already, and most importantly, share it out there. I'm sure you know plenty of people who would benefit from listening to this episode. So share it out there with them, and let's make the world a better place. So take care. Remember, you hold a pen, keep writing a positive script, and take personal responsibility for all aspects of your life. Until next episode, talk to you soon.